Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Once again, my name is Charlie, and I work at the U of O's Lundquist College of Business in admissions and academic advising. Today, we're talking about elevator speeches or elevator pitches, and we'll practice constructing them in the classic sense and then discuss how they might evolve for today's world. Go ahead and turn on your cameras and be ready to participate. We'll use breakout rooms in a bit to kind of practice, but yeah, let's get started. Hey, I'm Charlie, and I spent the last 10 years working in higher ed, mostly in admissions, but recently started a hybrid role, allowing me to take on some academic advising duties. I completed a master's degree recently, and I find that I like supporting students as an advisor a lot more than I originally anticipated. Let's get coffee sometime and talk about your experience working with students. I've got one more. Hey, I'm Charlie, and I've lived in Eugene for about 6 years. Since I've been here, I've adopted 3 cats. Started with 1, but then went to 3. I am kind of interested in learning what I can do to support anyone else in the area that might be considering fostering or adopting cats, and am interested in reaching out to get to know how I can become more involved in the cat rescue adoption network here in Eugene and Springfield. Sweet. Just 3 examples of how to introduce yourselves and start an elevator pitch. Share my screen here. Let's break down what goes into something like that. How's that? Can you all see just the slide?
Perfect.
Cool. That works better. Awesome. So again, I just gave you a few different examples of elevator pitches, and I wanted to throw in one there that's a little bit more personal, because here in the College of Business and just elevator pitches as a topic in career services tends to be really like work and job oriented, but it doesn't always have to feel so corporate. If you're interested in just getting to know someone or volunteering or connecting with a fellow student, your elevator pitch can be tailored to that audience or that purpose pretty easily. We will practice some of these, but really, what is an elevator pitch? I guess the term is derived from the fact that folks used to ride in elevators all the time, and maybe you'd get in an elevator with a coworker or a boss or someone that you wanted to pitch an idea to or get to know. So the idea of an elevator speech is that it should be about 30 to 90 seconds, pretty quick and easy. It is kind of something that you want to get across a specific point or request by the time that you get to the top of the imaginary elevator. But what goes in it? There's really 4 parts to most elevator speeches. You're going to introduce yourself. Pretty straightforward. You're going to include a summary of what it is that you do or what you're interested in. You're going to explain that as well. Elaborate a little bit more. If you noticed, I introduce myself, mention what I do or what my career and educational history are. I gave you an explanation, or could explain a little bit more if you didn't know what academic advising or admissions really means. Maybe that's just explaining like, hey, I support students in any issues they might be having in their college experience. And I help advise students about which colleges or universities might be a good fit for them, if at all. And then an invitation or a call to action. We'll break these 4 pieces down a little bit before I have you all start constructing your own. For your introduction, there's pretty classic. I started mine with a lot of I statements. So, hi, I am, or you could also maybe not use quite so many I statements like I did. You could say, hey, you're so-and-so, I've heard of you. Perhaps someone that you've met on this presentation. or at a conference or something like that. Hey, I noticed that you work at whatever the company is, or you volunteer at the Cat Rescue Adoption Network in town. Would you want to meet and get to know each other and talk a little bit more about how to become involved? Or I've seen you at. I get to know a lot of people through different like running groups and things like that that I go to in town, or young professionals, networking sort of events and things like that. So maybe there's someone that I've seen but not really had the chance to meet yet. And then I see them in a different setting, like at a cafe or walking around campus. And I say, hey, I recognize you. Tell me a little bit more about yourself and what you do. Let's get to know each other. Introductions, pretty straightforward, but doesn't have to just be all about who I am. You can turn it back to them just a bit. For the second part that follows, be specific is my piece of advice. Be specific about something, whether it's who you are, what you do, or what you want. That whole little bit about I'm Charlie and I have whatever the educational background is, or I'm Charlie and I work with students in higher education, or I'm Charlie and I'm interested in getting involved at the Cat Rescue Adoption Network, something like that. For your explanation, you really dig just a bit deeper. What does that mean? Not everybody understands what it means to be a higher education professional or an administrator at a university. Explain to them and try to anticipate their knowledge level about what you do. If I'm talking to somebody who works at a totally different company that hasn't been to college at all or in a long time, then maybe I have to tailor my message just a bit versus one of my advising colleagues across campus that might totally understand what I do. Talk about why you like it. Why are you passionate about it? I think maybe the cat example is a good example for this one. I'm passionate about it because I've adopted 3 cats and had great experiences with all 3. And I've been in Eugene long enough that I'm kind of trying to find ways to get more involved. Why is it important to you or your career, but why is it important to the person that you're riding the elevator with? Why is it important to society? Digging into your passions just a little bit as well. The call to action could totally be a request to do something together. You can talk, set up a phone call, meet virtually or in person, grab coffee, grab lunch, chat about ways that you can get involved at their company or just learn about their career trajectory, ways to collaborate. It shows a higher level of interest if you're interested in working with them on whatever their career is or whatever the project might be. Maybe you have a mutual interest in getting something done or making something more efficient. It doesn't have to be an ask of that person. I think a lot of, as I was doing a little bit of research online for some of this stuff, a lot of elevator pitch articles tend to focus on people that are trying to get a job or get an internship or something like that out of the person that you're riding the pretend elevator with, which is true, I think, but I like the get introduced point just a little bit that I read, because it could be that you anticipate that maybe you don't really care about getting to know me as much, but you know that I work at the College of Business, and maybe you anticipate that I know a bunch of the business professors or other advisors around the building. And so you want to make a request to get introduced to somebody else who you suspect that I would have a connection to. You could totally do that at a company as well. Let's say somebody works at a real estate company in the Portland area, and I'm interested in working there too, but maybe they have a totally different role that has nothing to do with the profession that I'm interested in. because they're there, they can introduce you to someone important. And turn it back on them whenever you can. Talk about how they got interested or involved in whatever the career field is. A good elevator speech isn't just about you, it's about them as well, or the subject or the topic. That makes sense so far? There's a lot of us on the Zoom call, but let's try out the annotation. Are you able to, at the top of your screen, annotate some of these? We'll go through them together. Introduction. Whoops, no, it would help if I stayed on the slide. Sweet. It doesn't always have to be getting something out of someone for the action item. I think a lot of the time we tend to ask for like jobs and internships, but it could be just a genuine interest in getting to know them as a human being, or kind of what they do or what they're all about, or whatever the topic is, whether it's like why they volunteer to help cats find homes or things like that. Perfect. I'm saving an image and now I'm going to clear everything. A lot of an elevator pitch is public speaking. When I was your age, I hated public speaking. I think I had to give a short presentation in high school about, I don't even remember what the topic was in my government class, but it only had to be 5 minutes. And I couldn't even fill the 5 minutes. And now I like love public speaking, but it took years of practice. So thanks for entertaining me. And again, elevator speeches and just talking to people are a lot of practice with just social interactions and public speaking. So I wanted to make sure that everybody got a chance to give it a try. We had some really good examples in our room regarding maybe, hey, I saw you on this research panel and I'm really interested in whatever the topic is that you teach or research. And we maybe chat about this because I've done a little bit about that. I've researched or kind of have this interest in your academic area. Let's chat more. Some others about going to college and talking to maybe an admissions counselor. And some others about just getting involved, or maybe a lower level ask that doesn't require much and is therefore pretty likely to get a yes response because you're not asking for something huge like a job or an internship. You're asking for a little piece of information or some knowledge. Can you recommend a different training program or a skill that I should be learning in order to break into your sort of role? Sweet. Where's my share screen?
There was a really interesting chat message. I wanted to do a big shout out about how this elevator speech is so easily utilized in an email as well. So that's great insight.
Absolutely. That is a perfect segue. If you're like me, you probably haven't ridden in an elevator very much over the last year, or like bumped into somebody in the hallway and been able to chat with them. So you kind of have to be a little bit more intentional and explore some different avenues with pretty much the same content. And email is a perfect example. How might you give an elevator pitch to someone these days if you're not on campus or going into a restaurant that you might want to work at? Drop some ideas in the chat. Email or call them. Schedule a meeting. Nice. Staying after the Zoom meeting, really common. My coworkers and I do that all the time. the meeting's over a couple minutes early and it's like, ooh, hey, can I grab you for a second? Email, side chat in meetings, could be the Zoom chat on the side. You individually chat someone, hey, I noticed you're in on this big old presentation. Can we talk a little bit more, maybe later this week or next, about your work? Your elevator pitch could be something totally different as well, like a short essay or explanation of who you are on a job application or an inquiry form, or a college or university, or your college admissions essays, which gets into totally where I've been for the last 10 years is college admission applications. A lot of them have a short application that's basically who are you and where are you coming from, not just geographically, but your walk of life, your background, and why do you want to be here? Why would you be a good fit for this school? So think of it as a way to network. I think somebody mentioned earlier gaining social capital, and it really is all about getting to know other people and make some connections. And you can leverage those if you have something to gain out of that. But honestly, it doesn't have to be immediate. It could just be getting to know more people in your area or in your field. And then maybe that turns into something over time and eventually. It's a good way to make friends too. Hey, I'm new to this high school and I've always been kind of interested in theater. And can you talk about how to get more involved in the theater arts productions? I'm going to end where I started, which is basically about not waiting for opportunities, but making them. You're going to be waiting quite a long time if you're waiting for all your opportunities and not taking the initiative to get to know people and step out of your comfort zone. Most people will recognize that you're stepping out of your comfort zone, whether it's introducing yourself or talking about some job interest or passion that's really important to you. They're going to recognize that you're stepping out of your comfort zone. If it's public speaking as well. And most people are going to be just fine. I did want to get you all my contact info as well, whether it's for admissions stuff or U of O stuff or follow-up or advice on really anything. I do recruit students to the U of O, so if you're interested one day in coming here, then we can always chat. And I've got lots of admissions colleagues that can chat to you, but even if it's making yourself a competitive applicant for here or any other schools, I'm totally available for that. That's my email address, so you can always reach out to me, but I've got a bookable appointments page if you ever wanted to just set up a meeting and tell me what we're going to talk about, and then I'm yours for 30 minutes. I'm happy to play more of an advising and support person for you, whether it leads to you coming to U of O or going to some other school. Or maybe getting some job that you're interested in. Sound good?
Charlie, that was fantastic. You
Thank
really,
you. Thanks for having me today. I'm glad. I've been keeping an eye on the chat and it's been really fun to watch. You all have really good ideas.
yes, a very active group. And I'm really proud of all of you sales students who have been testing it out and trying and stepping out of your comfort zone. So like Charlie said, that's how you're going to make things happen. It's not just going to come knock on your door. You stepping out, you never know. I've said this to students in years past. You never know if the person sitting next to you on a bus or in a classroom someday is going to be your new boss or is going to be your doctor or a lawyer or somehow involved in your life. So meet people, meet as many as you can, and use your new pitch that you have here. create it on your own ahead of time, practice in front of the mirror if you want. Toastmasters, I saw a lot of students put that in the chat. I've done Toastmasters for years. I love being involved in Toastmasters. You get a group of people who are all interested in practicing public speaking and having fun with it, making mistakes, learning. It becomes normal instead of this scary thing like Charlie was mentioning. Um,
Takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. So I've noticed over the last year, I've kind of reverted a little bit, but I'm like, okay, got to sign up for presentations, got to get out there, talk to students, because one day we'll be full force back in person and chatting with people.
yes, I sure hope so. Well, can everyone, our time is up with Charlie. So can everyone give him a big round of applause? And Charlie, that was wonderful. I'd love your PowerPoint slides so I can share with students. If you're willing to do that, that would be.
Yeah, absolutely. I put my contact info in the chat as well, but it's probably like way up there now. So it'll be in the slides and sent to you after. You've been a great group, really interactive, maybe even more so than if we were in person, and I love it. So this has been kind of refreshing. Keep it up in classes this fall.